Hi, Heather here from Creative Kiwi. Thanks for watching our video on how we make these very cute in the hoop pencil cases. You can thank Dorina for this one. Dorina had an order for some pencil cases and asked me just to digitize it for an in the hoop style, and I'm so glad I did. I'm not sure why I haven't done them before because they are such a cute little style, so quick to make and perfect for using any fabric. Now we've called it an in the hoop pencil case, but you can see there are many uses you can use it for: jewellery, makeup, just wet wipes, anything like that you can have in your purse. They're perfect for scrap busters, for like as you can see there with Dorina's got some of those licensed fabrics that we all buy, but sometimes find it hard to find a project to use them in. So the fabric requirements are all in the instructions that are included in your download file. So anyway, let's get on to it. So the first thing you need to do for any embroidery project is make sure that you hoop your stabilizer properly so that there is no movement in the hoop. And you can see there, I'm using, it's actually cutaway I use for these purses, or you can use a tearaway, but I do use the pinning method so that you can ensure that there is no movement at all in that hoop. The first thing to decide is whether you want to do a really quick one hooping pencil case, in which case you can have just a plain back, as you can see with the giraffe sample there, or you can quilt a piece of fabric first, the back, you can quilt the back first, and we've got those 4 different styles of back there which match the fronts. So the first thing I'll do here on the video is just show you how to quickly stitch a backing piece. So really simple, you hoop your stabiliser with the pinning method, and then you stitch the first outline, which is the placement line of the back. The next step's optional. You can place a piece of batting on the backing piece, and this will really depend on how heavy your fabric is and whether you want to use batting. So I've just got a thin fusible fleece that I use there, and that step anyway is just you stitch the second colour, and it stitches just inside the actual placement line, so it's just going to remove all of the bulk from the seams. And you can see there, all I'm doing is I'm just going to cut away that excess batting, and then we're just going to place the fabric, your backing fabric, over top of that outline, and you have the right side obviously showing up, and tape it in place. And then you take it back to the machine and you stitch the next colour, which will attach it, secure it to the stabilizer, and then go straight into whatever quilting style you've chosen to do. So I know it's an extra hooping to have the back, but gosh, it makes a beautiful finish. And that's the back done. So it really doesn't take long. So the next thing to do is just obviously remove from the hoop, and then we're going to cut away the excess stabilizer. Now you also need to make sure that you do leave the extra fabric just around those edges, because that's the seam allowance of your bag. So you can see there I'm only cutting the stabilizer, not the fabric. And as I say, the rest of it's going to be your seam allowance for your bag, and we're going to remove that right at the very end. And now you can just put that backing away for later. So now we go into the stitching big bag. So it's the same as before. You're just going to hoop that stabilizer with the pinning method, and you're going to stitch the first outline, which is going to stitch the outline of the bag and zip placement lines. So now we're going to place that zip, and basically you've got that center line there, and that should be the center line of your zip, and just tape it in place. Take as much time as you need to do this, and you can see there the zip, the actual with the metal pieces of the zip are all outside of that stitch line at the moment. So the longer the zip the better, and that way you can always trim off the edges. And as I say, take your time here. This makes the difference, and there really is no other way of doing it other than match up as closely as you can to that center line. So back to the machine, the first side's going to do the left-hand side of the zip, and you get a bit of an idea. You can see once you've done the left side whether it's close enough, whether it's accurate. So you just have a quick look, and you can see it's caught the zip in. Probably not the straightest, I'd have to say there, but I'm going with it. And then you do the right-hand side, and that's your zip placed on the stabilizer. So the next bit, we're going to do the right hand side of the bag, or from that view, the top, and we're using the stitch and flip method. So we're going to place our fabrics so that once they're attached, they flip back over the correct side. And as I say there, if you're having batting, you would put that down. I'll show you soon. But it's a stitch and flip. So that way you've got nice neat edges on both the back and the front of the bag. So you start with doing the lining on the back of the hoop. So just be aware of which side you're doing it on. So you get it's hard to see with this fabric, but you put the right side of the fabric at this point is facing the hoop, and it's going to stitch and then be flipped back over once you finish the embroidery. So it's actually on the opposite side to the side you're doing. It becomes a little bit clearer when you go through the video. So just tape that quite securely, that lining fabric on the back of the hoop. And you're just really lining it up with the edge of the zipper because it's just going to be attached just along those lines we've already just stitched. So that's the back of the hoop, and that is your lining fabric. Then we're going to turn it over, and that's the front of our hoop. Now see, we're doing the right hand panel, but the fabric's going on the opposite side initially until we flip it back over. So again, you've got the right side of your fabric at the moment is going to be facing the hoop. We're going to stitch it down along the right side of that zip, and it will be flipped back over and give you that nice edge. I'm just showing there that when you put your hoop into the machine, you should be able to see your lining fabric underneath. So it's not going to get caught anywhere. So then you stitch the next colour, which stitches exactly along the line you've already done, that zip line. And it's going to attach both pieces of that material, the front and the lining. Now if you're having batting, there's this next step where you just place a piece of batting over that right hand side, and it's just going to stitch it down. And so batting's optional. If you're using a denim or a vinyl, or just even if you just choose not to have batting. So if you don't, you can skip this colour on the machine. But otherwise, just stitch that piece of batting down, or secure it all down on the right hand side of the hoop. And again, the batting's going to stitch just slightly inside of the actual bag placement, just to keep that bulk out of the seams. So as you can see there, we're just going to now trim away that excess batting, just from that side bit. And then we're just going to fold that fabric, and that gives you that nice edge along the zip. And at this point, your lining part is still going to stay on the other side. So all you're doing here is you're just going to fold back the bag part, front of the bag part, and then off to your machine. And that's just going to stitch to secure down that front panel. And you can just see that's just secure there. Lining is still sitting on the other side. Right, so the next step, if you're having quilting, is the design will go off and stitch the quilting. If you wanted to put someone's name on here or another embroidery design, this is when you do it. You do it at this step. You can see there the quilting's done. Now once you've done everything, and I'm just removing a little bit of excess fabric, my fabric I cut too large at the beginning. This next step is going to fold the lining back, so make sure you do whatever names you want, whatever you want, do that before this step, because once you actually pull this lining back, you're going to see the back of the embroidery if you did a design at this point. So you just fold that lining back, and we're just going to run another placement secure line, and that's just going to secure the lining so it's all in place. Now I've just used all the one thread here, so you don't need to change colours. But the next step is going to be what we call the decorative stitch along the edge. So if you want to have that a different colour, a contrast colour, you just need to change the thread at that point. Now that's going to stitch, it stitches along the edge, so it gives you a nice edge. But also on the back of the, on the lining, you can see it actually just gives you a nice edge there, and it stops the fabric from bunching up in the lining. So it just keeps it all nice, nice and taut. So now we've done that, we're going to do the opposite side. And again, because we're doing the flip method, we're going to place our fabric right side towards the hoop, but along the opposite side. And that's the back of the hoop. And you guessed it, we're going to place our next fabric. And same thing, it would be the right side of the fabric facing the hoop and just over that, basically the zip line really. Because we're going to stitch down that left-hand side, as you can see there. And it's going to be the same step as we did before. If you want batting, you're going to place it in at this point and stitch it down to secure it. Or skip this colour if you're not having batting. I like the batting in the bag, so I've just got a light fusible fleece here. I just think it gives a nice little bit of body and it shows the quilting up so nicely. And we're going to do the same as we did before. We're just going to cut away that excess batting. And as I say, this stitch is slightly inside the placement line, so don't think your outlines are off or anything. It's meant to be just slightly inside of that bag. So now we're going to fold back that side of our bag. And remembering that lining's still sitting on the other side, on the back. We're going to stitch down the left-hand side and we're going to do the quilting. And again, if you're putting a name on or anything like that, stitch it at this point. So there's that cute heart quilting. You can see it a lot better obviously on the plain fabric. And again, we're just going to fold, because we're finished doing everything on the front apart from the decorative stitch. And so we're just going to fold that back now and tape it in place just to secure it when we get it to the machine. And again, that will just do a second stitch to secure the lining in place, and then we do that decorative stitch, which I think you can see on some of Doreena's, she does in like quite contrasting colours, and it is quite contrasting on this one. Right, so that's the front of the bag finished. So it's easy peasy. Now I'm just going to do this tip that Doreena actually told me, and it's actually fantastic. So you just remove that stabilizer, piece of stabilizer that's behind the zip, and just do it at this stage. And I think you can see there, get a quick unpick in there, and it just comes out very easily, and it makes it much easier when you complete the bag. As I say, it just kind of, your quick unpick just slides along there. And it's just the little piece from the zip, so you're not cutting away anything else, just that little piece of stabilizer behind the zip. Right, so we've done that on the back of the hoop. So now on the front, make sure you open your zip. Okay, so you just put it through, because that's going to be how you turn your bag. So yeah, you really need to have your zip open. And if you're putting in any tabs like I am, you just tape them in place on the front as it's shown. Now the back, if you're having a plain back, you would just put your fabric with the right side facing the hoop, and that would be it. We've got the quilted fabric we're going to use, so just going to line it up a little bit more. So I've basically pinned the center of the back, and I'm just matching that up against the zip really, and just making sure that it covers those edges. Then just tape that backing fabric on. And it's back to the machine, and we're just going to do stitch around. It just stitches right around the back of the whole outline of the bag and attaches everything. It goes around a couple of times just to give you a nice secure back. And then there's just one more step after this, which just adds your lining. It makes everything look so neat. So you remove everything from the hoop. See, you've got that gap there. Brilliant tip, Doreena. Anyway, so your lining, hard to see with this fabric, but right side of fabric again is what's going against the hoop, as you can see if you were doing that. And you're just placing that fabric over that complete guideline. and just tape it in place for the last time. Back to your machine, and again we're going to stitch around the outline, but it does leave a gap, and that's a turning gap, so that's so that you can actually turn your bag in, and again it will stitch around twice, just so everything is all nice and secure. There's no chance of anything, any stitching coming undone here. That's your bag done. I love this bit because it looks kind of messy at this point, but it doesn't take long and it looks great. So just going to cut away all the stabilizer and the fabric and the extra zip, and leave like about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch seam allowance. And see the gap there? You just need to clip right on that corner there and then clip your edges. And this does make a huge difference because it certainly makes your corners nice and crisp and look nice. And we're going to turn it. Moment of truth. So you get to this point and think, oh no, I've done it wrong. What's happening? Because you're in the lining part, but it's meant to be like this, so don't worry. So you can see there, you poke out the corners, you've got that gap there on the right hand side, and that's where we're going to turn it and just stitch the bag closed. But at this point, yeah, put your corners out as much as you can, and I like to iron. I do like to iron. I think I'll go through and do, yeah, after this, I iron it. Just press it all, and then I just press those edges in nicely on the side, and you can hand stitch them or use double-sided tape to close it. And then you get to turn the bag out to the right side. So get your corners. And again, you need to iron these. Poke them out as much as you can and then press it. It makes a huge difference. So there we go. A cute little pencil case, fully lined. And that's the 6x10 size, and they're a really good size. So you can see they're my dressmaker scissors. They fit perfectly. The 5x7 obviously is smaller, but would be good for little kids. But definitely the 6x10, if you've got a 6x10 hoop, it is a really good size. And it's fully lined, and you've got that nice edge on both sides of the zip. Now, obviously, I haven't sewn the edge, the lining at that point, but you can't really tell. There's some pens. It's a really handy little size. I'm so glad that Dorena asked for it, and I'm not sure why I haven't made them before. So here's just a few samples that Dorena made. I believe at this point she's made 18 in 2 days, really. So yeah, I hope that gives you some ideas on how quick they are and also how gorgeous they are, and using different fabrics for different purposes. So thanks so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoy making the design, and we'll see you next time.